Sorry, we're talking about Charles has a new dog, by the way. So this is the DMZ
Well, I think he's
America
always
podcast.
been a dog.
Charles has always been, he's been described in some quarters. DMZ
he
America
could be trans.
podcast.
He could be trans.
Who are we to judge, really? I'm Scott Stantis, coming to you from the right.
And I'm Ted Rall, coming to you from the left.
And Charles Lipson, Professor Charles Lipson from the University of Chicago, is joining us, who has written extensively on politics. If you haven't seen his stuff, you really need to go to Charles Lipson. That's one word.com. That's charleslipson.com. So we were just talking about the Hunter Biden case and how that's eroding the presidency, or could potentially erode the presidency of Joe Biden. Let's look forward. As Charles mentioned, we'll be voters. We'll look forward, not backward. And how's this going to impact 2024? My thought is, and I use the term loosely, you could have both major party candidates under indictment. And by indictment, I meant the inquiry in the Congress could really be a full-blown hearing and a full-blown impeachment hearing. At the same time, you have Donald Trump under, it's 91 now. It could be, 1,200 by that
I thought the first 6,000 counts were weak. And I thought the last 950 or so had more basis for them.
I personally have contempt for that one DA in rural Arkansas who didn't file any charges against Trump. I mean, did he sleep late, or what's going on?
Well, I actually think Biden, let's go back to Biden for a second and then go to Trump. I think that Biden's greatest vulnerability is both what Comer and perhaps Jim Jordan, but mainly Comer, is uncovering as they're doing an investigation that should have been done and led to criminal charges long ago by Weiss. But I think Joe's other vulnerability is that his infirmity, his cognitive infirmity, which is what really matters. Nobody cared that Franklin Roosevelt was in a wheelchair. What matters is the cognitive capabilities, and those are increasingly obvious that there are real problems there. It is surprising, though, Democrats that I talk to, the real kind of hardcore Democrats, many of them who work in political communication and so forth, they love this presidency because, in their opinion, it has pursued the kind of progressive policies and gotten a lot of them through, a surprising number of them through, either by executive order or regulation or whatever. But and they're enthusiastic. But when you see the polls, about 3/4 of the public does not want Joe Biden to run again. And I would say,
including most Democrats.
Yeah, that's correct. And I would say that the numbers probably are like that for Trump, except that the quarter of the population that does want him are all Republicans, and against a split field with nobody currently emerging from it, he looks like the guy. But if you end up with the fact that these two are even now the front runners in the two parties, sort of damns our political system, in my opinion. I mean, how can these two people be the best representatives of the conservative side and the liberal side?
It's insane. It is fucking insane. And I mean, it really
that's
shows
a technical term, but I'm kind of agreeing with it.
We don't have, look, it shows that we don't really have much of a democracy, because in a democracy, we elect the leaders that we want, but we're not being given that option. And also there's a lot of spite voting going on both sides of the aisle.
Right.
And it is revanchism. I know a lot of hardcore Democrats who believe that the lawfare that is being waged against former President Trump is politically motivated, and they're good with that. they're like, whatever it takes. We don't care if it's fair. We don't care if it's toxic. We don't care if it sets a nasty precedent. Just flush Trump down the toilet no matter what. And they don't seem to care much about the consequences to the body politic. I mean, we're literally going to, as of within 6 to 12 months, when Trump is spending a lot of time in court, the entire world is going to be able to laugh at us, because there's literally no other country, and I'm going to go with very dysfunctional countries like Pakistan, that have this level of insanity in their political system, of where you have, like, you know, the kind of thing where you have, like, even Imran Khan in Pakistan, he's in prison. He's not facing 91 counts, and I'm not even counting the Jean Carroll stuff. I mean, it is just goes on and on and on. We are becoming a massive laughingstock.
That's true. That's real.
Well, the problem is you've nailed it, and I would just say, like most Americans, I don't care much what they think about us in Belgium. What I care about is that we're a laughingstock to ourselves, and I've got enough well-earned gray hair to remember the deep divisions in the late 60s. I was a mere tyke, but I can remember them. And what struck me about the early 70s was how quickly they all healed. And I don't have that optimism right now. What I learned from the 70s was how fundamentally stable and united the country is. But it's not just that we have corrupt leaders and a kind of we have a corrupt leadership class. And if you look at the public trust in institutions, I think the only institution in the US government that has over 50% trust is the military. It's not a good, I mean, I'm glad that people trust the military, but it's not a good thing in a democracy.
Even that number is dropping.
Yeah, that's right. And I must say, intellectuals and the academy have engaged in a kind of multi-decade long march against these institutions, and in favor, I think, of reinforcing divisions in America, especially ethnic and racial ones. I try to think back to older friends like my friend John Cass, who's son of a Greek immigrant, and so forth, and what was, and very proud of his heritage. But what's different now, I think, from then is that John always thought, and I think an earlier generation of Irish immigrants and Jewish immigrants and Chinese American immigrants always ultimately thought that they were united under the banner of being an American, which is not a blood and soil thing like it is in some areas of Europe. You're an American as soon as you have a green card, as soon as you're a citizen. But people who are saying there needs to be an African American national anthem and you need to kneel at our national anthem and so forth, it's not just that that's bad in and of itself, it's part of a large trend that has led to a kind of group against group hatred that's been reinforced by our intellectual class.
Well, now we're seeing, obviously, you just touched on this, like, we don't trust any institutions in this country now. We don't trust the courts. We don't trust the justice system.
And I'm worrying about podcasts.
Yes, well, cartoonists. There aren't
the worst ones.
Yes.
Even the dogs are losing
even
ground.
The dogs, even Sammy.
That's partly because of Biden's dog is not helping the whole canine race.
Well, yes.
I just think that is just crazy. If I had a dog that bit one person, I'd say, "Oh, right, it's all right, Snappy, you get one more shot." And
yeah, but they're afraid that if you start putting down one person in the White House, it could lead.
Well, now I think, by the way, I think we come full circle. I think I know who that cocaine belonged to. The dog.
Oh God, what a story. What a story. These people come out looking like they've been eating frosted donuts at Dunkin'. But nobody can tell who it belongs to. Good Lord, that's the most heavily surveilled place in the country, and they can't tell us. Good Lord.
Commander, I'm telling you, Commander, that's why he bit 10 Secret Service agents.
He was just so high, man. He's just
They should have kept his name the Redskins. That was the problem when they changed his name to Commander.
Yeah. I don't know that that's true, but we'll
No, I'm joking.
But okay, so real quick, and then we got to wrap this up. But we're looking at 2024. I just mentioned that
the year 2024.
We could be having an impeachment / Donald Trump going to court or being in prison. What are we looking at in the fall of 2024? Are both these guys going to be the nominee? I suspect they are. If I'm going to throw in my 2 cents in quickly, and
more likely Trump than Biden.
What's that?
More likely Trump will be the nominee of the Republican Party than Biden will be the nominee of the Democratic Party.
I think.
Yeah, you've said that.
That's
right.
You
think so? You think so too, Charles? You think they could dump Uncle Joe?
There's a lot of evidence in the academic literature that no matter how much we know, we're not particularly good at predicting, and I'm going to stick with that. I mean, I'm with Yogi Berra. It's hard to predict, especially about the future. But there's so much room for a candidate. It may be Burgum of North Dakota. It may be Youngkin, who's not in the race. There's a thirst for a candidate like that who I think the problem that Trump will have is that it is kind of the same as in the last election, but worse. People used to write me and say, or email or talk with me and say, gee, Trump has, 30,000, 50,000, 70,000 people at a rally and Biden has 6. How can this possibly, how can Trump possibly lose? And then after the election, some of those people say, how could he have lost? He didn't. He couldn't have. But the fact is, if you'd held a rally for people who wanted to vote against Trump, that would have had 30, 50, 70,000 people. And if you have Biden versus Trump, it'll be who you most want to vote against. And then you'll just vote for the other one, but not so much for. I don't think, in that sense, Biden got a lot of for votes. He got a lot of against votes. And all of Trump's votes were for votes. But part of the for was that they were against not just the Democratic Party, but I think they're against this centralized state where they're being ruled more and more by bureaucracies passing rules. Nobody has said, who passed a law saying you can't have a gas stove? Things like that.
Or an incandescent light bulb.
Exactly. Those may be good things to do or bad things to do, but in a democracy, decisions that affect us in that sort of deeper way ought to be made in a democratic way. And so that's where we all agree, left, right, and center, is that there is a deep decay both in the parties and in our institutions. And it looks like unless something drastic happens, we could be facing those as choices in 2024. It's a very unhappy prospect.
Wow. Well, on that happy note, kids, we're going to have to sign off here. But Charles, thank you so much.
Indeed.
I know Ted is where are you going, Ted? You're heading off someplace else.
I'm in Quebec City on my way to Montreal.
Okay. Well,
Quebec is the only walled city in North America.
That's right. That is right. North of Mexico, I guess.
Oh, Mexico, that's right. That's a good point.
It's a good part of North America. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, we're learning a lot more about Mexico these days. since we have an open southern border. That's an issue we didn't talk about, but it's not just the border, but a sense of lawlessness in the country, which I think is deeply unsettling.
Like these snatch and grab gangs in California.
Exactly. It's a deeply unsettling situation. Most of it is at the local level, not the national level, but I think it's matched by the open border.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think you don't have to be a right winger to appreciate law and order.
Okay. Charles, where can we see all things Charles Lipson?
At charleslipson.com, which is my website. And you can sign up, and I'm glad to email you the articles for free, but I mostly write for Real Clear Politics and Spectator World. I don't post podcasts and other things on there, but I'm happy to correspond with people who want to, and I'm a big believer in free speech, so you don't have to agree with me to write in. You can agree with me, or you can be wrong.
Those are your rights.
Ted, where can we see all things Ted Rall?
Just go to rall.com, RALL.com. You can go to whowhatwhy.org on Saturdays, find my cartoon, and you can listen to, there's Scott and I are both on Centerclip, which is an app with micro podcasts, like 30 seconds to 5 minutes long about politics. And you can check out my Radio Sputnik talk show, Monday through Friday, final countdown, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, co-hosted with Manila Chan. Scott, where can we check out all things Stantisian?
Go to gocomics.com/Scott Stantis, one word, or go to gocomics.com/Prickly City to see my comic strip. You can also go to the chicagotribune.com/opinion and see a gallery of the work I do for them. And I'm on Centerclip as well, as Ted mentioned. So, Charles, again, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate
my pleasure to talk with you guys, really.
Let's do it again.
We'll have to do this again. Let's talk about the border because we've talked about that, and Ted and I actually agree.
Boy, you gotta admit that Taco Bell must be thankful that they dropped that slogan, "Make a run for the border."
Well, maybe they still use that south of the